My husband doesn't realize that our son's girlfriend is trans. Do I tell him or just let it be? I have 3 sons, 32, 28, and 26. All of my sons are very successful young men and are on their own. My oldest and youngest were always very outgoing and were kind of party animals in high school and college. My middle focused on his grades and future from a young age. He moved out the youngest into his own home. Anyway, my middle had a very bad ex-girlfriend. I would like to say worse, but I read the rules here. Basically, they dated since 17, and she cheated on him several times. My son never left because he loved her, but eventually he realized she was a bad woman and left her. Only took 8 years. Anyway, my oldest got married at 29 and my youngest is engaged. They give my middle son a lot of crap because he is single, but I always say that his ex kind of messed up his sense of love and confidence. They don't understand what he went through. My husband agrees. 6 months ago he started dating this new girl that we just met yesterday. I was happy to hear that he found someone. She is very educated and smart, according to him. They have similar personalities and interests. Considering my middle is kind of a nerd, that made me very happy to hear. Anyway, I wanted to meet her immediately. My son said that she is very shy and it would take her time. 6 months later she told him that she is ready to meet us. So Friday afternoon, my husband decides to grill. Everyone comes over. Then my son and his new girlfriend show up. This beautiful girl walks in holding his hand and standing behind him. He was right, she is very shy. We all introduce ourselves and we will call her Sadie. Sadie was quiet but said hi to everyone. She honestly associated the most with our dog that night. My sons go out and help their dad cook. My daughter-in-law goes out with my grandbaby, and soon-to-be daughter-in-law and her are best friends till they go out together. I ask if Sadie would like to help me finish the sides and chop some stuff. She says sure. I just ask how they met and typical conversations. Eventually my middle son comes in and comes up behind her, pokes her booty. She gives him a really look and hits in the arm, and he grabs her and pick her up as they laugh. I say put her down, don't be so rough on her. My son just says okay, put her down, and goes back out. I said, sorry 3 boys. Sometimes they are a little too rough, but he is harmless. She said, I know he is. I used to wrestle with my dad and brother growing up too. I said, your mom let her daughter wrestle her older brother and dad? She said, well, I used to be a boy so I guess it was different. And giggled. I froze. I said, what? Her face went snow white and immediate tears rolled down her face. She said, he didn't tell you? I went no. She said, I think I should leave, I am sorry. I grabbed her and said no, stay here. I said, does my son know? She said yes, he knows. She then said, I always bring it up first dates so if there are issues, we don't waste each other's time. To be honest, I am very surprised, but my son has never been so happy so I dropped it. I honestly just couldn't believe it. I mean, you would never know. She is gorgeous. She asked if I though of her different. I said that you make my son happy and as long as you treat him right I won't care. She just said thank you. I called my son today because his dad wants to get to know her more and wants to go to dinner with just them and us. He said sure. I brought up our conversation and he said he knows. He said that she is just really shy about it, doesn't talk about it at all. She just tried to run under the radar. He said that since you know we need to tell dad, but they discussed me kind of pre-telling my husband. Before tomorrow evening. Any idea on how, or should I tell my son before we go that he and her are going to have to do it? Any help would greatly appreciated, thank you. Update. Hello everybody. I would like just first say thank you for the kind words. Everything, believe it or not, went very well. I took the advice and told my husband earlier than I had planned. I told him at noon when we were going to pick up my son, we will call Sam and Sadie at 6. The conversation basically was fairly quick. I just told him I needed to tell him something and he had to promise me not to be upset. He just said speak. I just said Sadie is trans? He just went, okay. He said we'll talk later. I said something about dinner and he just said we will talk later. I told Sam and told him I have his back. On the drive to Sam's place I told my husband that Sam loves her and makes him happy. I explained it took a lot of courage from Sadie to be open with us right from the beginning. My husband just said we will talk later, and said I promise I will be on my best behavior. We go pick up Sam and Sadie. It was a nice restaurant so my husband and Sam were in polos and dress pants. Sadie and I were in dresses. They looked so cute together when I saw them. They were matching and everything. We go to dinner and my husband is acting normal. Just asking questions to Sam and Sadie about intentions, how they met, etc. After dinner, I give her a lot of credit. Sadie tried to bring it up with my husband. He just said, hold that thought, let's go get ice cream. Husband is obsessed with ice cream. Will always find an excuse to get it. So we go, as he is just telling jokes to everyone in the car and acting a fool, as he always does. We get there and ask what everyone wants. My husband's favorite is chocolate. Mine is cookies and cream, Sam's strawberry, and Sadie's is butter pecan. I promise this matters. We get our ice cream, and after a few minutes my husband says, "It's weird how there are so many different types of ice cream. When I was a kid there was like 2 or 3. Now they have hundreds, it seems like." I was confused where my husband was going with this. He then said, "As long as the ice cream that you like tastes good to you and makes you happy, I don't mind forking out a few dollars for a smile." He then winked at Sam and Sadie. That was it. That was the discussion. We took them home and he gave Sam and Sadie each a hug and told Sadie he hopes she can make it to more dinners on the weekends as we do them often. Sadie said that she will. All I have to say, I held my husband's arm the whole way home. I am guilty, I did give him a big present for it. Thank you everyone for your support and kind words. It seems everything is going to be fine. Story 2. I, 22M, am in medical school and my fiancé, 22F, freaked out after seeing a diagram of a vagina in my anatomy textbook. Together for 6 years. I don't know what to do. Some backstory. My fiancée Annie and I have known each since we were children and began dating junior year of high school. After high school we both went to our state school and I asked her to marry me junior year of undergrad. I have always dreamt of being a doctor, as has she. When the application process began, I applied to good mix of MD and DO schools of varying degrees of selectivity, though all med schools are insanely selective. I had initially planned on continuing my education in my state institution because I did not want to take on too much debt. I did end up getting into my state school's med school, but I was also unexpectedly was offered a spot at one of the best med schools in the country, IDOTI Top 3, in New England. We are from the West Coast. I would have been inclined to reject the offer had I not also qualified for a partial, but still significant scholarship. It would still cost me more out of pocket than my state school would, but not significantly so, maybe a couple $1,000s more. Annie, despite pleas from myself, our parents, professors, advisors, etc., applied to only our state school and to some insanely selective, top 10 MD schools that she, to be blunt, had no chance of getting into given her admittedly mediocre grades and research experience. She was rejected from all the schools she applied to, including our state institution. Obviously, this crushed her, and I have tried my best to support her during a difficult time and to help her remain optimistic. Our situation now is this: I am currently enrolled at the aforementioned New England Medical School, while Annie has decided to take a year off to strengthen her profile with research experience, physician shadowing, etc., and is currently living with me. There were no jobs open related to her undergrad major, political science, here or in our home state, that would be able to give her sufficient time off for research, so she is currently working part-time in the retail industry. I have tried my best to be completely supportive of her, as I know that this is a difficult time for her, and I have never, ever said, "I told you so," or anything along those lines. This is what ended up happening on Friday night. I was home, studying for a test on Monday when Annie came home from work. She came over to my desk and kissed me. I asked her how her day went, and she didn't respond, and suddenly looked very pissed off. After a few moments she said, "What the fuck is wrong with you, textbook throwaway?" while pointing at an anatomical diagram of a vagina in my textbook. I was speechless. After regaining my composure, I managed to let out a surprised, "What do you mean?" "I'm studying." To which she said something along the lines of, "You know what the fuck I mean, why the fuck are you looking at pictures of women's vaginas?" This was very strange because she knows I occasionally watch porn and has no problem with it. In fact, I know that she enjoys porn from time to time as well. I explained to her that I have to take anatomy in medical school, but she wasn't having it. She took my textbook and stormed off to our bedroom and locked the door. I could hear her crying and I kept apologizing. After a few minutes she opened the door and threw her engagement ring at me before slamming it shut again to continue crying. I continued apologizing, but she did not respond at all. I spent the rest of the night on the couch. Saturday morning, she wasn't home. I checked my phone and there was a text from her saying that she was staying with a friend and that she was done with us unless I dropped out of medical school and found another job because, and this is an honest-to-God text from her, she doesn't want me ogling at vaginas like a fucking pervert. This is completely out of character for her. She has always been level-headed and reasonable, and has no history of mental illness or anything like that. I am not a stupid person and I know that this has way more to do than a picture of a fucking vagina in an anatomy textbook, but I have no idea what to do right now. She has stopped responding to texts and won't pick up her phone. I spoke to the friend she's staying with who basically called me a fucking asshole and said that Annie is crying and getting drunk, and that neither of them want me coming over to speak with her. Her parents passed when we were young children and she doesn't have any siblings or much other family. I have no idea what to do anymore. I love her more than anything, but there is absolutely no way I am dropping out of medical school for her, and I would rather we break up than I bend to her completely unreasonable demands. But I am very concerned for her mental health right now, and need any advice I can get. Update 1. I'll save you the trouble. She wasn't cheating nor was she pregnant. Yesterday I decided that enough was enough and I headed over to where she was staying, intent on ending the relationship. When I got there she was half drunk. What followed was a lot of screaming and cussing directed at me. I learned why she wanted me to drop out. It had nothing to do with textbook vaginas. When I was a sophomore, 2 of my friends dropped out of college to work on their tech startup full-time, and invited me to come work with them. My undergrad degree was in comp sci. I rejected the offer because I wanted to concentrate on my dream, becoming a doctor. Fortunately, their startup did very well and last year they sold it to a large tech company for a very large sum of money, in the low 8 figures. I was thrilled for them. After they sold the company, both of them obviously had large lifestyle changes. One of them proposed to his girlfriend with a ridiculously fucking big diamond, and they are frequently vacationing in exotic locations with family and SOs. Apparently, their success and lifestyles made my girlfriend extremely jealous, and she came up with the vagina thing as a way for me to drop out of med school, because she thinks that I can easily get a job making $150K a year at a bank so we wouldn't have to live like fucking refugees. And then I am a fucking idiot for not doing so. Still, I was confused. I asked her about our dreams of being doctors. Turns out she never really wanted to go into medicine but only claimed to because it was all I ever talked about. I guess that explains her application strategy. I was done. I broke up with her on the spot and told her not to contact me again. She is going to continue staying with the friend while we figure out a living arrangement.